Starting the recording and pressing play now. All right, welcome everyone to a modern tournament. This is the Cardboard Cellar Tournament Series, Winter Modern. For round one here, we have myself, Jarrod Ellenberger, on the left, playing John Sacrifice against Ben Reinhardt on Boros Energy.
Yep, and I'm Austin McLean. I'm going to be here helping commentate on this first match here. We're excited to have everybody. So this is our first time getting to do this and actually getting to commentate over. So we're super excited. We do want to apologize. There was a technical issue concern in getting all these crossed over. So this quality on this video in the second round might be a little touchy, but we're excited to get some magic going. So it looks like you're going turn one ignoble hierarch here. So, the potential for a solid turn two start. You can do a lot of 3-drop interactions here. Mayhem Devil's a huge turn two hit. You've got Grist. Obviously, we're going up against that Ocelot Pride, which is scary to see at the beginning, but I think you have all the tools in the deck to try to combat this before it gets a little too out of hand.
Yeah, definitely. Being a collected company deck, having 3 mana is where I want to be for sure. So starting out with that ignoble is critical to be able to keep up with Boros Energy. But like you mentioned, that Ocelot of the Pride, it's a card that really has the ability to snowball, to cascade into some really powerful turns if it's not interacted with. And my deck doesn't have that early type of interaction for creatures until its engine gets online. But there is one of the key engine pieces in that Mayhem Devil. We'll see if he does have a non-fetch land. Mayhem Devil triggers off both your opponent's lands both your opponent's sacrifices and your sacrifices. So
Yeah, I think
if
that
he
makes
had
the
been
card
forced,
makes the card
yeah,
much better in that instance for sure. With being able to hit the opponent's sacrifices too, makes it incredible. Actually,
for sure, it definitely adds an extra dynamic. You have tons of pings flying back and forth in this modern format, and even just making a fetch land for a shock cost four life instead of three is huge, and that's sort of the lowest case scenario on it. Luckily, that
yeah, but
stomp rolling off the top of my deck for to combat that Ajani. Ben off with his powerful cat synergies there. You really have to answer that Ajani as the first of those creatures, otherwise he flips and gets out of hand very quickly.
yeah, you really have to get rid of that as soon as it hits the battlefield. But you're able to take advantage there. I mean, yeah, the deck's resilient, but you got to take pieces at a time and continue to trudge forward, getting in for some big damage there with that 5 off the Mayhem Devil 2 Exalted trigger. So swinging in big early.
For sure. And I found that that's really critical with this Jund Sacrifice deck against Boros Energy. They can really just rebuild no matter how many times you ping off their creatures. They're just so resilient with the One Ring and Flage and all of that. They rebuild so easily. You have to get after their life total and end the game quickly there. So, but Ben off with a strong follow up here in the Guide of Souls and Ragavan to trigger that life gain right away.
Yeah, bringing out the Soul Brother here. I mean, a little bit more resilient than the Soul Sisters, the classic. So having that 2 defense makes a huge difference in the long run. So he's going to get that 1 energy up top. He has a fire energy, Pokemon fire energy up top that we cannot see, but he does have that 1 energy. And then we're
And
doing some
and
counting. I think he's trying to get the city's blessing here to trigger off that Ocelot multiple times, but not quite there yet.
Yeah, just so much text on that Ocelot card, one after the other abilities, and that cascade getting more and more out of hand once you have the city's blessing. And you mentioned earlier that the Guide of Souls having 2 toughness really relevant, and not just in this matchup with Orcish Bowmasters and the Lord of the Rings card, the Fight Fire Foes, the Alliteration card. I can't remember the name of it.
All fear fire foes. Yeah.
Fear Fire Foes, yes. There's so much one damage based, Ren and Six, so many one damage based items in Modern right now that the 2 toughness on Guide of Souls is massive. Looks like we have
Yeah,
Grist coming.
but you said I don't need to care about that. You're gonna hit down with a grist and you're gonna trigger off multiple here. So
Yeah, for sure. The sacrifice from Grist triggering the Mayhem Devil to take care of both the Ocelot and the Guide of Souls in one foul sweep. Um, and that Guide of Souls really is a priority for me to get off the board here, as that energy ability is going to get out of hand, and no no matter how many blockers I put out in front of it, the Guided Souls can just fly over top. So I decided to attack in with Ignoble with the Exalted here. He has a 1/1 and Ragavan and a 2/1. But we both missed our third land drops here. I was not anticipating him actually taking that trade. Is really going to work out poorly for me if he has a third land to come in here, because I'm stuck on two now for at least 2 turns.
Yeah, and I'm seeing Blood Moon in that hand. So I mean, if he had that third land drop of Blood Moon, I mean, do you feel like that in this instance is probably pretty critical because he's probably going to take out your Grist. You no longer have your Ignobles to create that additional land type. So I feel like a Blood Moon would be pretty devastating at this point, right?
Yeah, definitely. Looking back, I definitely think that's a mistake. In the moment, I was just in the mindset of getting aggressive, of both trying to protect that grist with the Mayhem Devil and trying to get in a point of damage. But it was just a massive risk to take that. And Ben called my bluff on it, knocked that ignoble out of there, and I'm stuck on 2 lands for a while
Oh,
here,
is
it
he
looks
going
like.
straight to your life total though?
Um, I
Or
did
is he
not see
thinking?
quite where he swung.
I think he's going 1-1 here. It looks like.
Looks like it. I think is one of those tokens a 2/1, if I'm not mistaken, coming off of a Johnny and then the 1/1 as well. So missing my third land drop again here. But luckily I do have one of my few 2 drops to play. Uh, have some blockers out on this board uh, and maybe even I would say chew up a Flage if it hits the graveyard, but that Flage more than likely going to kill the Scavenging Ooze in this instance if it does come down.
Yeah, I think just Ben needing to get this third land drop. I mean, obviously hitting another Ocelot's big, but
Yeah,
definitely needs something else to come through here. I mean, having the basic force is nice going in if he does get that Blood Moon down, but and
definitely
having the
unfortunate for Ben here that he's missing that third land drop. His deck really starts to get to a new power level as well in those third and 4 mana slots. But both of us just trading back and forth here on 2 mana, doing what we can. So might be a battle of limited resources, low resources here to see who can slog through.
yeah, that and it just sucks to see. You would love to see some more action and both players having the adequate mana, but that's how Magic is, and sometimes it's a fickle being.
Yeah, it definitely can be. It's crazy to think back in previous years, the more strict mulligan rules that we've had and the ways that they've tried to alleviate some of the variants of these type of games. But even still, some things just play out that your decks can't fire on all cylinders. But it does lead to interesting games in those cases as well when both players run into that kind of thing and everybody is forced to make the best of it. Where you get those non-games is when it only happens to one player and the other just runs them over.
Right. I would definitely rather see it evened out, makes for some better Magic, some more math going on, and some critical decisions. So yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully, what we got here, we got a bolt coming through. It looks like.
Yeah, an aggressive attack from Ben with that Ocelot Pride, the other 1/1 against the Scavenging Ooze. Um, and I have the Goblin Bombardment down there in the upper left. So I think he just felt that he needed to try to get in past that. Um, but yeah, definitely between a rock and a hard place there on what his options were
Oh.
to try to save that ocelot, and it just did not work out for him. Got him for quite a few points of damage though. Just
Yeah, and I
reminding
think
him
we missed.
here,
I think we missed a static prison trigger.
yeah,
So
we just
good
backed it
call
up.
out.
Yep, just making sure we're keeping those energy counters in track. Um, just especially whenever there's more energy cards like the Raptor coming into play here, just making sure we keep those even so that there aren't too larger spells coming off the top. That Blood
Oh,
Moon hit it off the Amperaptor, if I recall, that he was short an energy. He used his last energy to keep that static prison around, so not able
yeah,
to
that sounds
cast the
about
Blood
right.
Moon in that instance.
But we want to talk about resource that Amped Raptor just takes it to a whole another level too. It can just escalate so quickly. Especially Amped Raptor into a Johnny. That's a huge getter there and really put some presence on the board.
For sure. Yeah, that adds up and cascades so effectively. And I break serve here and find the third land. It's a painful one and notably a non-red one, so no seasoned pyromancers coming my way, but definitely getting fortunate to be the first one to find a land there, be able to start casting some spells.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big factor here. You know, Ben's still stuck on two, and I mean we got to be on what turn 6 or 7 at this point,
Yeah,
right?
at least, yeah, we're well into the game. Both of us struggling with mana, and Ben definitely getting more unfortunate than I have. I made my decisions, made my bed by sacrificing and attacking with those ignoble hierarchs. But um, here I'm showing the power of Goblin Bombardment a little bit, being able to block and absorb or prevent some damage while still pinging off the others. I go down to 3, so any land, we've seen those flages in Ben's hand. Any land from Ben will be a quick end to this game.
Damn, that Goblin Bombardment, almost forgot about it.
Yeah, yeah, it is crazy how it can affect a game, turning just a couple of blockers into a really tough force to attack through. Mayhem Devil adding to that same type of pressure very quickly, and I as long as I get fortunate and Ben continues to miss his third land here, the board itself looks quite stable. Just I need to gain some life um, or get Ben dead faster than he can find that third land. Guide of Souls coming down is going to be a option for gaining some life, triggering that ocelot, as well as an option for potentially flying over top. Um, that static prison really punishing Ben's resources, as he would be able to fly over top right now if he wasn't continuing to pay energy to keep that other mayhem devil down. But blocks all around here and a couple of flings. It looks like we've got 2 damage going after the Guide of Souls itself, one from the Goblin Bombardment, one from the Mayhem Devil, and then damage between what I believe is a 1/1 and that Mayhem Devil as well. The insect token, I believe, got in front of the Raptor, and that damage being prevented there. Then passes the turn on back. Um, I draw a card and I'm just continuing to hope that Ben misses his third land or try to find some life gain. I believe my possibilities for life gain include Courser of Crufix, and in some iterations of this deck, I've had a Blood Artist or two, but I don't believe in this one I did. So really, I'd have to be digging for that Courser of Crufix to try to get out of range of a Flage. Courser would be actually a great draw here to try to find a fourth land and continue to press a resource advantage. Um, Ticking up Grist, milling over a Goblin Bombardment, getting a token, and starting to get aggressive as I know I'm not going to be able to gain any life with my current hand. I've got to try to get Ben dead as quickly as possible. Casting that Bone Crusher from back on turn 3 and seeing what kind of a clock we can get going here. The Static Prison being sacrificed triggers the existing Mayhem Devil to ping off the Ocelot Pride and bring back a second Mayhem Devil. So, very quickly, with the punishment of that Static Prison and the couple of resources that I am able to work with, we build up a board, uh, very a pretty insurmountable board very quickly here. But I'd be dead in a moment if Ben could just get fortunate enough to find that third land. See if we can make the math work to finish Ben off this turn with 2 Mayhem Devils and a Goblin Bombardment. Most roads lead to the proper amount of damage for that. Attacking in here for 11, Ben at 12. We know we've got to get a block going somewhere. Amped Raptor going to block, I believe, the Bone Crusher Giant. Um, Grist making another insect token. And we're going to start flinging at Ben for 3 at a time. So that'll wrap up game one. Ben, unfortunately, not being able to find his third land drop, I definitely stole one away from him here. And our co-commentator Austin being pulled away for just a moment as we go to sideboards. But we'll talk through this, and luckily, with me being one of the one of the players in this match, I'm very familiar with my thought process on the game. So pulling up the two sideboards here, Ben has two Damping Sphere, one Fear Fire Foes, a Gigantha. I can't remember the name of this card, but it prevents a player from casting spells. Stony Silence, Sun Cleanser, Thraben Charm, and Wear Tear. Did I hear
Yeah,
you're
so
back
that
with us, Austin?
yep, I am back. I do apologize for that. But that is Orm's Chant. So that's actually a card that states that basically your opponents cannot cast I want to say non-creature spells or creature or spells in general for that turn. So kind of a shutdown for that turn if it's kicked. So
Definitely
yeah,
heralding
pretty good
back
card
to
in certain moments.
Silence. One of the first decks I believe I built in Modern was Silence Isochron Scepter. So all of the fond memories rolling back in there. Taking a look at my sideboard, I've got two chokes, two endurance, an engineered of explosives, two eat to extinction, haywire might, Phyrexian revoker, soul jailer, Serulf realm eater, two riveteers charm, a reclamation sage, and a plague engineer. So, talking through my thought process here, it's kind of a difficult sideboarding. You have to be ready for the flages, so you have to bring in some amount of graveyard hate. Endurance, having a high toughness, is an easy one to bring in that front. And you also have to be ready for the cat synergies for Ben's board to just go so wide that it's difficult to deal with. So bring in the Plague Engineer, and I believe at least one Eat to Extinction in terms of trying to deal with that board going wide. What do you think Ben will be bringing in, Austin?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about. The only thing I can really think of is honestly, maybe the Thraben charm to try to take care of, or maybe the Fear Fire foes, get rid of your insects. But
Yeah, it is. It's there's a lot of tension here. There's a lot of one toughness creatures, so I can see Fear Fire's foes being good, and I believe that prevents me from blocking him as well, if I recall the text of that card correctly. But I could also see consideration for the Thraben Charm to deal with one of those Mayhem Devils or one of my key engine pieces. Um, my deck has enough creatures that you're definitely not going to be able to pick apart my board entirely, but if you can keep that engine offline, there isn't much I can do to disrupt the Boros Energy deck at that point.
yeah, and I don't think it wants to come off too much of its synergies. So I don't know. Personally, m- me thinking this through, and it could be the incorrect. I'd probably try to bring in that Fear Fire foes and maybe a Thraben charm or two, but that would be my only thing. I don't think I'm really trying to bring in Wear Tear to get rid of your Goblin Bombardment. I don't think it's uh, you know worth or necessary for that. I think just trying to go as wide as possible to get around it and
Right.
controlling the board with Flage and a few of those other cards, Bolt and such to keep your stuff on the lower end.
Right, yeah. Wear Tear definitely a tough one to bring in when there aren't many enchantments for you to hit in my deck. There's always the chance that you draw the Wear Tear and I don't draw the Goblin Bombardment, and it's a just a dead card in your hand. So yeah, I think it's smart to hedge against that. Let's see how these hands pan out as we take a look at our openers here. Just based on the way I'm leaning back and forth, I'm guessing I'm not too happy with it, but doesn't
Yeah,
look initially
I
like
get
the
that feeling.
for sure. I've kept, I guess. Staying at seven as Ben goes back for a mulligan. Hopefully his six treats him a little bit better.
Yeah. Hopefully he's finding what he's looking for and able to do some stuff, some more stuff. I mean, he definitely did a lot of stuff off of 2 mana last turn, which is actually pretty impressive. But hopefully able to at least get to that three and be able to put a little bit more resource and power on the board.
Definitely, yeah. The the low resources games can be interesting, but hopefully we get to see a match here where both of us do what we're trying to do and let the better deck, the better player win.
Yeah, and on the play, his hand's not looking too bad. I can't see. I see he's got an elegant parlor, so mana and tapped,
Yeah, it
but
looks
I
like
can't see if he's
Bonecrusher
got that second
Giant,
land.
Ocelot Pride, Flage. I can't tell what that the card his thumb is over. It might be a Blood Moon. And
Yeah,
then
I believe
yeah,
that
then
is a blood moon. So
at least one or two lands in there as well.
I
Ben
think
has
he
kept
shipped the
on.
blood moon back.
Yeah, and it appears he's kept on six, and he's gonna get us started here.
Yeah, so we're going to see an elegant parlor come down, tap. We're going to surveil, see if he likes it.
The
All right, we're keeping.
Surveil lands really adding an extra power element to modern. If you recall back in the day, there were all the temples that were unfetchable. Those seemed unplayable unless you were on a deck like Ad Nauseam that was just trying to find the same cards over and over again. But the being able to fetch up one or two surveil lands out of these modern decks really boosts the consistency of them.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to peek at that top card and washing it away if you need to. So kind of big there. I think that's an arid mesa or a marsh flats. Actually, I think it's marsh flats, proxy marsh flats. So going to go find plains or swamp. Obviously, going to get something with the plains. Looking at that sacred foundry, it seems.
Yeah, just
But
once all of his colors all the time, being able to cast, multiple one white drop one drop white creatures or fixing his mana for Flage here in the later game. And especially with him shipping that Blood Moon on the mulligan, no need to prioritize the basics at this point.
yeah, and I'm wondering if that land was off of that surveil or if he actually had the second one in hand. And what we're going to see that turn three. We're going to be back down to. Are we going to stay at two this time, or are we going to have that next land? But actually, I think that looks like a galvanic discharge in hand that he's looking at. I think he's debating amped raptor or going for your hierarch.
Yeah, for sure. Ocelot, it looks like he's going to go with the Galvanic, which it really does hamstring these collected company decks to be stuck on two mana on turn two. They definitely want to be able to get one of their powerful three drops out and have that consistency of three drop into collected company into following repeated turns of three drops. So uh, I hit my second land here in a basic swamp, insulating myself from Blood Moon a little bit. Not that it was a intentional choice, just the cards I drew. But second ignoble coming down and continuing to power out that mana advantage.
Yeah, and I think Ben definitely made the right decision there, actually, with trying to play Ocelot, get it online for the next turn, and have the resources. So, especially having an amped raptor, being able to take you off some mana. And we're going to see. Nope, keep going, Ben. We got it. What do we got? Another Ocelot. Huge hit.
Second Ocelot, yeah, for sure. As powerful as one is and as cascading, snowballing as they can be, two just really pumps out a ton of bodies so quickly. Um, Amped Raptor has having summoning sickness, just cast this past turn, so it's not going to be able to get in the red zone, but that Ocelot can attack in with first strike and make it a really tough block for the ignoble.
Well, did he exert the Arena of Glory or no?
I don't recall, but I think he would have corrected me on saying that it had summoning sickness if not.
Yeah, potentially he could have missed a little bit of extra damage there, being able to exert. Obviously I don't know what's his hand, but potential of exerting the Arena of Glory to give it haste, get a little
Yep,
bit of extra damage there. Um,
yep. Oh,
but now,
it's untapping there, so it must not have been exerted. As a fourth land comes in, shocked for me, and yet I have nothing to do. You know, it's a standard play for collected company decks. Just so unlucky to not have anything to do on those turns.
yeah, at least you have mana for Collected Company. Looks like we have that in hand and ready to go at instant speed here. So solid pickup.
Definitely. So the Ben's figuring out his attacks here as he follows up with more cat synergies and a Johnny yet again. So plenty of tokens coming his way. and quite a lot of damage potentially if he wants it as well. Tapping the ignoble in response to the stomp, and then yeah, I think I recall I acted a little too hastily here and just decided to fire off this company before Stomp had resolved. Um, just some shortcutting. Um, see what company has to offer in the form of an endurance and an imperial recruiter. Endurance gonna go ahead and be a nice blocker for some of these smaller creatures, and also gonna get a few cards out of the graveyard um, for making phages later down the road a little less impactful. Noticing now the the sequencing there, that galvanic bombardment should actually be in his graveyard. So Ben, apologies to you if you're watching this. That would be one more card in your graveyard. Hopefully, it doesn't end up impacting the game there. Just confusion on the way we handled that. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was the stomp that dealt with the ignoble, not the galvanic. Forget what I
Yes,
said.
yeah, the
Everything
stomp. Nope, stomp
board
was.
state, I believe, is still good to go.
Yep, looks correct. Everything seems in order. Um, and then what did you go get off of the
Uh,
Imperial Recruiter?
Plague Engineer.
Oh
So that
yeah,
definitely has a strong impact on a board like this. Although I am facing down a good bit of damage if Ben decides to swing in. I'm recalling now there was a question on where Ben's hand went after shuffling. We did a quick count of all the cards that were cast in the turn of the game. I believe it ended up being 11 cards on turn four with him mulliganing, and we had a couple of fetches to replace a couple. So I believe he did not have a hand at that point, um, and that it was not accidentally mixed back in. The attacks come rolling in with Ben a little light on resources, light on cards in hand, and ahead on board. It makes sense. You gotta start doing damage where you can. So looks like 4 damage coming in with that block on the Amped Raptor, and a consideration for the Imperial Recruiter here as I take a look to read a Johnny, find out if he transforms right away, if he transforms end of turn, when exactly that is going to how that's gonna uh, play out. Decide
yeah, and
not
I believe
to.
it's right away. Correct.
Yes, I believe so. So I decide not to transform the Ajani by blocking one of the tokens. Endurance eats up the Amtraptor, and I take 4 damage. And lots of tokens coming Ben's way here.
Yeah, and I think he still attacked with the ocelots. Correct.
Yes, and
Okay.
I think I don't recall if he gained that life or not, but we definitely got in the tokens here.
Okay. Yeah. So it looks like 4 damage went through, which would add up correctly. Going to get with the city's blessing.
Yes, so lots of
Yep.
tokens coming here as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 permanents with the 3 additionals. So he was at 11 permanents at the time of gaining the life or of his end step. Plague Engineer
But
going to
Jarrod
come
is a big
down
bully,
and
and he
the
has
the
to.
hater fun.
Yep, just good old modern magic fun here. The You got to love when a plague engineer can come down and wreck the whole board.
From 14 permanents, 10 creatures down to 1 creature, which transforms into a planeswalker during my turn and gets attacked by an endurance and goes away as well.
Yep. So been even debating flipping it, puts it right back in, right to the graveyard. So unfortunate for Ben, but great play on your end, being able to get that down, and obviously a great sideboard piece.
Yep, and that's one of the big reasons for having that Imperial Recruiter in the deck. The sequencing of it, collected company, and having that option to go get him, go get one of those one-off sideboard cards. There are definitely more powerful cards that and more synergistic cards that can be in the main deck, but it makes your sideboard a lot more versatile to have those Imperial Recruiters in there.
Yeah, especially with a lot of Boros Energy running around in general. I think there's two decks at this tournament running Boros Energy, but in general, just a great card to have with the Met, I think personally. Um, so,
Completely agreed. Um, and then a blast from the past in Courser of Crewfix, revealing a scavenging ooze on the top. Courser, one of my absolute favorite pet cards to play with to make sure you're almost always drawing gas. Along with fetch lands and grist, season pyromancer and the imperial recruiters themselves. There's a good amount of ways that you can manipulate the top of your deck in this Jund sacrifice. So being able to see what that card is, having that extra mana advantage, and having the ability to gain some life, all very powerful from Core Surf Crewfix here.
yeah, I feel like we're back in 2013, 2016 era. So, really taking us back here a little bit with that one.
For sure, and trying to make our commentary jobs a little bit easier here as well, as we can actually see what's being drawn. So yeah, that Wooded Foothills coming off the top to gain one life and reveal a Seasoned Pyromancer. Seasoned Pyromancer, one of the stronger draws for the Jund Sacrifice deck, so I'll probably be holding that. No, proving myself wrong right away as I sacrifice that Wooded Foothills to handle Ragavon, and I must have a 2-drop that Scavenging Ooze perhaps in hand that I'm looking to play here.
Yeah, I mean,
Losing
just
one in. Sorry, go ahead.
continuing to push his board away and build your own. So not looking super great for Ben here. Obviously has a pretty solid body out there, but I think you're going wide enough at this point with having Mayhem Devil down. It's really putting the crunch on it.
Yeah, for sure. Chewing through a lot of Ben's resources in the early game as he dealt with those ignoble hierarchs to slow me down, and I was lucky enough to have the 2 ignoble hierarch draw into the collected company, that card advantage, and Ben already on a mulligan, really taking its toll here. As I believe that's a Goblin Bombardment in the upper left once again. Our camera angles should get a little bit better as these rounds proceed.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask. I was like, I thought that was Goblin Bombardment, so that changes the whole dynamic even more. And then fetch off the top, could potentially just put this thing away.
Yeah, fetch lands in combination with Mayhem Devil, Bloodgast, any of those types of cards, they really add up the damage quickly out of this Jund Sacrifice deck. But the Bone Crusher Giant doing a good job at keeping my creatures at bay here. I can't attack profitably with anybody. I could trade off with the Mayhem Devil if I want, but that's not exactly where you want to be. Trading off one of your best resources for half a card.
Yeah,
I
is that a
believe
second Mayhem Devil we're seeing though?
I believe it is Judith. Judith, the Scourge Diva. So a
Okay.
similar effect to Mayhem Devil, although notably making all of my creatures power 1 greater as well.
So yeah, quick change here and able to push out that giant that was holding things back, and I think that might do it here for Ben. I
Yeah,
think able
as
to get
we're
in here with some pretty solid damage, fling the rest off, and get that W.
Yep, we're just double checking that I'm not supposed to take 2 damage off of a ability, or rather 3 separate abilities targeting the Bone Crusher Giant there, and the cards are beginning to fling to bring Ben's life total down to 0. So
Yeah, great win to start the tournament 2-0, and we'll see you guys in round two.